Hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday's Talking Reds. My name is Mo Stewart. I'm here alongside Rob Gutmann. As some would say, the classic Wednesday lineup is back. Now, with it being the middle of the week, we're not far enough into the season to have a midweek game, so there's not always a lot of things to talk about. But there's been a couple of interviews over the last couple of days, one from Mo Salah and one from Jurgen Klopp, that I want to talk about. And the one from Jurgen Klopp in particular has got quite a debate going between myself and Rob, because
quite the debate, Mo.
You might have seen some quotes that have come from it. There's a few that are dotted around on the internet regarding Klopp's future, how long he's going to stay, and the general gist from those quotes was that he's not looking at it now. He's basically going to wait till he gets to 3 years from now, hoping everything is still as fantastic as it is, and assess it from there, which is kind of a we don't need to worry kind of message. But we've kind of looked at the full interview and dived into it. Now, there may be some issues with translation here, but there is something in there that was quite a little bit more worrying. He was asked about his options for the future and given 4 options. The options were manage the national team, manage Bayern Munich, manage Dortmund, or manage Liverpool for life. And the thing that's got me worried, Rob, is that he put staying at Liverpool for life as number 4 on those options.
Well, that's the way the translation comes across, and I'm finding it hard to process that. Because I saw a couple of translations on some Liverpool Twitter accounts yesterday, which purely focused on the Jurgen. I may or may not stay after 3 years, which read to me like Jurgen. He's being a gentleman. He's being himself. He doesn't want to put pressure on the whole situation. Because if you said I'm going to be here longer than 3 years, you're being presumptuous about how successful you're going to be, and it's a bigger. You're being presumptuous about people wanting you to stay. Everything's rosy at the moment, but 3 years is a long time in football. So at that point, we're okay with that. But then he seems to have been asked this really direct question, like, who do you fancy the most? And the way it comes across in the translation we've read, admittedly, it's the translation app on your phone.
Yes,
right?
granted.
But it really is quite, binary, quadruply, whatever the expression
is.
Any
actual Germans out there, please put us a reason if you can.
Put us a piece here, because he's put Liverpool right at the bottom of the pile, like fucking. You might as well have said, "I can't wait to get out of there." But which I think, if that's what it means, I think we're breaking the story of the season, quite frankly here. So I refuse to believe that's what it was. Either way. I'm not going to say there's a world out there looking for clickbait action, but there is. I'm going to see headlines. Jurgen close to Bayern move will be one. Jurgen dreams of national team. Jurgen wants to fuck Liverpool off. All those headlines are possible on the back of this piece.
Well, I mean, that's what we would expect. And that's why it was so surprising for me when I read the piece to think that no one was going with that part of the story, which may mean that it means something. may mean that it means something different than we think it does. That's hopefully something to hold on to. The really interesting part about the whole thing for me is the Bayern stuff, because I've always been of the opinion, not only because of his rivalry in the Dortmund days, but Bayern just doesn't really, as a club, as an attitude, the overbearing, overpowering kind of club, doesn't really suit what Jurgen Klopp stands for and how he likes to play his football. So the fact that this massive charm offensive that they've put on him may seem to have some traction, that does worry me slightly.
It's really difficult for us to know how Bayern Munich sits in the German consciousness. There was a time where, if you talked about Manchester United to the English, it was always seen as some sort of zenith of any potential football career. And it, regardless of how they conducted themselves, their status, it was just that mystical, magical sort of concept of Manchester United. And it may be that Bayern holds that in Germany. I'm not sure. I agree with you that they feel a little bit too much. I don't know. In a German context, they're Manchester City. They're over-moneyed. They can buy the league every year. There is no challenge for them domestically, and if they are, it's only because they're very, very poor, which they are. And even then, they still prevail and win the league. So the only challenge going to Bayern would be to set your stall to winning the Champions League for them a couple of times. Jurgen's good at the Champions League.
He is.
But it's still a hard trophy, as Guardiola's alluded to set your stall by. So would he go for that challenge alone and then see the procession of the league as interesting to him? I don't know. My personal guess is that Jurgen in 3 years' time, and presuming he continues to be very competitive with Liverpool, his choice will be either to really put down a legacy with Liverpool and sort of milk the full potential that he's got out of them. And you're not going to have won the league, say, in 3 years' time and want some other fella to pick it up and win it the back-to-back version. True. I don't think. So you either want to go and do that, or you want to retire and spend the rest of your life on a beach and have a great time with your family. Or I think there's a halfway house, and I think which is an easier life. And I think if it's an easier life, I think you'd take the German national team. I don't think you take Bayern, and I don't think you go back to Borussia Dortmund.
No, I think going back with players has been something he's been very reluctant to do. So I can imagine him having the same idea as a manager. Hopefully, like I said, the Bayern stuff can still be discounted. I mean, we are all talking hypotheticals here. For all we know, Liverpool going to win the next 3 league titles. He's going to sign for the rest of his life, and we're all going to be happy. And we'll be able to look back on this and go, oh, how mad were we getting all worried about that? But there is another scenario we need to look at. And I think, personally, the national team is the one that I am the most concerned about, because obviously 2022, the current break in his contract, is a World Cup year. They have had a German coach for quite some time. So if they have a second disappointing tournament in a row, that feels like a natural break. And if Germany are looking for a new manager, there really can be no one else higher on the list than him.
No. Again, it's one that's hard for us to understand. Is the draw of managing your country that big a deal? You'd think, the English were a bit less patriotic, I think, than some in Europe are, broadly speaking. So we don't see that quite as the the pinnacle of a career.
Although coaches probably still do.
Sorry?
Although coaches in England probably still do.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can't speak for everyone, but I think you get the feeling in some European countries that is still the pinnacle of what a coach could achieve. But having said that, the stock of international football seems to fall a little bit further every year. And you wonder if seeing your career out amidst the frustration of international management, and it can be that, although there's a lesser workload, you're seeing the players only every now and again. Klopp values the close personal. He values the personal contact. He values the detail. Just turning up with a big smile and a hug, it might suit him down to the ground. I mean, I'm sorry, diminishing you, Jurgen. It's an appalling thing to say, but you know what I mean. I think he's more. I suppose I think he's more than that, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of the time with international management, that's all you are. You're a guy who comes in and thumps the table with his fist and goes, "Come on, let's do it for I was going to say for Deutschland." It sounded a bit wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. He might take to tournament football internationally the same as he does in European, but these are all hypothetical things. I'm sure that Jurgen himself, when making that interview, was trying to make sure that this interview didn't become a story. We all know how much he hates that.
Well, I got that wrong there, Jurgen.
So yeah, sorry, mate. But we felt we had to discuss it. The other interview I mentioned at the top of the show, Mo Salah, Kev and Andy touched on it a little bit yesterday, that he was generally happy. But there were a couple of other interesting points that I wanted to talk to you about, Rob. One in particular that's relevant to us because we are doing a show on this subject in about 20 minutes' time. Mo doesn't like VAR. And the thing that I found most interesting is the fact that the reason why he doesn't like it, he said, it's too fair. It's too fair. He likes the element of mistakes that stays within football. Are you surprised to hear someone actually involved in the game saying this?
I don't know if I believe him. I think he's playing to. I'd like to ask him that question at a series of junctures throughout the season. I'd like to run on the pitch.
It wasn't one of those where it looked like he was giving a kind of a coy answer. He was adamant.
Yeah, he was. Let's put it this way. He's not experienced it that much anymore. I'd ask him what he thinks about the VAR, the goal he set up for Sadio Mane in Porto. Should that have been chalked out and not set us on our way? I mean, yeah, of course it can go either way for you. I think, and we're going to talk about this in our show, I think the thing about VAR is it's all very new, and human beings aren't very good at all very new. I'm personally, I don't know, I'm a natural modernist. I'm always looking. I'm still waiting for flying cars.
Yeah.
I've wanted a version of VAR. I've bored people in pubs for 10, 15 years on this going. The game is tragically unfair. It relies on human error. I think the offside rule is one of the stupidest rules ever conceived. If you think about the idea that it's when a a pass is played and where another man is, technically if those people are 30 yards apart, your eyes have to be sort of split in the middle. It's not physically achievable. I once spoke to a linesman who said, well, you listen for the tap of the ball. I think, fucking hell. Is that how the rule was conceived? So the rules have been asses in terms of human capability for a long time. And I think we have to certainly give VAR a good chance. I think, my guess, within a couple of years, people will not be very aerated about this.
Well, the two main things he did mention in a positive light. One, the fact that he's concerned about protecting the players. If he thinks that it's going to help protect the players, obviously he's talking about the red card incidents, then that's one thing. He did also say he's going to get a lot more penalties and score a lot more goals, so obviously he can't be too upset about it. Speaking of scoring goals, another thing that he mentioned was the fact the interviewer, Becky Anderson, asked him about, does he feel like he's a goal machine? And he said no. He said that he's more of a winger than a number 9, and he's happier being out that way. He doesn't have the pressure of just scoring goals, which is what he sees as number 9 doing, despite the fact that we know Bobby does more than just score goals. But I found it really interesting that he was so keen to stress that he doesn't want the pressure of always scoring goals, because, Rob, if you look at him on the pitch, he looks like he's okay with that responsibility of scoring goals.
I think he likes scoring the goals. I think he has to accept that he may not be scoring as many goals. He had a ridiculous baptism, ridiculously fantastic baptism in English football with his 45 goals. But in the last calendar year, he's got 12, which a couple might be penalties. Sadio Mane has 20 in this calendar year. Sadio Mane is the goal machine. So being a goal machine or not might not be Mo Salah's choice. I think sometimes it's interesting around our top 3 how there's a sort of maybe a revolving hierarchy of who's the main man in focus. It might be in training they're saying, Sadio's in a rich vein of form. We saw Sadio play centre forward, didn't we, the other night? Was it the Super Cup,
yes.
Effectively? That used to be Mo's slot. So, you know what, as long as they're all scoring, I think we're all happy. And I think Mo's mainly saying, well, of course he would like personal glory. I think he'd like the big trophies at Liverpool. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and I think he wouldn't trade personal glory for the main trophies, and I don't think any of the team would. I like the way, like you say, it's whoever's rolling at the time is the one who gets the most featured. It reminds me of the peak of the Neymar, Suarez, Messi partnership in 2015, when they were at their peak and they all seemed to be assisting each other, looking for the other person to score more than they were looking for themselves to score. And that worked out pretty well for them. So as long as they've got that kind of feeling amongst themselves, then I'm not really worried. The competition of who scores more is going to be a friendly competition, but it might drive them on to bigger and better things. So there's no bad thing in that either.
No. I remember when Suarez and Sturridge were competing a little bit in 2013-14, you genuinely got the impression they weren't pleased for each other very much. They really wanted to outscore. But you sort of, these 3 are beginning to understand that the whole of the 3 is bigger than them as individuals in a certain sense. There is a brand that is these 3. I hope they realise that. I hope they realise they should stay together, and that we will get to a phase where we just count the composite goals from them.
Yeah.
I think they're one of the most complete front 3s we've seen in world football, really, in terms of they are bigger than some of their parts.
And they can be remembered as such if they stay together. Now, the full interview is available on the CNN website. I implore you to go and have a look at it. It's very, very interesting. We've got some shows coming out today. As we mentioned, we're doing a show about VAR, which may end up being 2 parts because it's quite a lot to get through. So that first part of that will be coming out later today. I also wanted to give you a shout out about the live show that's happening ahead of the top of the table clash this Saturday between Liverpool and Arsenal. It's down On Air in the Baltic Triangle. It's starting at, doors are at 12:30. The show starts at 1. You can find out all about tickets on our website, www.anfieldwrap.com/tour live. I think I got that right. That might be the first time I've got an actual website address right.
Do we do like across the bottom like it might come up?
Normally that's what I do. That's kind of my cheat. But this time I actually remembered. So you know what? We're going out on a high here, lads. Up the Reds.